What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Gimme presented by Bet365. He's Spencer Aguiar. I'm Jason Sobel, and yes, I am here at TPC Southwind, beautiful TPC Southwind here in Memphis, Tennessee, for the first of three FedEx Cup playoff events, the FedEx St. Jude Championship. That's right, not the Classic, not the Invitational, the Championship. Make sure you're noting that when you do all your research this week. We'll get into all of those little details and minutiae as we continue the show. We're going to give you our favorite outrights, our favorite props, first round leader bets, one and dones, like we do every single week here on the show. Before we go any further, though, a reminder the Gimme is presented by Bet365. Sign up offer in New Jersey, Colorado, Ohio, Virginia, and Iowa. Bet $1, get $200 in bet credits. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Let's take a look at the top of the board this week, Spencer. At Bet365, Scottie Scheffler, no surprise. He's the favorite at plus 600. Just behind him, again, no surprises. Jon Rahm plus 800. Rory McIlroy plus 900. Patrick Cantlay at 16. Apologies for that. We had some, as you could have seen on the slate, technical difficulties going on here at TBC Southwind. That's my fault. I didn't pay for the Wi-Fi bill, but we'll get that figured out in just a minute. But we can go back to the top of the board at Bet365. Scottie Scheffler is your favorite at plus 600, as well he should be. Right behind him, no surprise, Jon Rahm at plus 800. Rory McIlroy plus 900, followed by Patrick Cantlay at 16. In that top tier, it looks like everyone's they're pretty much priced correctly, aren't they?
Yeah, and I'm gonna say, Jason, we do a show that's live in person, and I don't know. I mean, maybe some of these players might have gotten a clue that we were gonna fade them this week. They don't want that out on the airwaves, and all of a sudden they pull the connection from us. But no, I think pricing in general here is pretty fair across the board. It's a difficult tournament. Like you're going to hear me say it quite often over and over again this week, where when you look at this course specifically, 9 of the last 11 winners have led the field in strokes gained tee to green during their year of winning at this course. So, to me, that kind of tells me that one of these pristine ball strikers, one of these top players in the world, this is kind of the most likely scenario. Now, there's 25 or 30 of those names that have a chance, but I would be careful going too far down the board because of that reason.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I do think the top of the board, these guys understand that the next few weeks are a marathon, not a sprint. Not that they're thinking, I don't want to win this week, but it's more important to have my best stuff a few weeks from now in Atlanta. So, all of that said, we're going to start our portfolios out. We're start with our outrights as usual. We've got $100 to spend this week. And Spencer, why don't you start us off with the first of those outrights?
So I actually am going to go near the top of the board with my play here, and I'm going to take Jon Rahm at 9.5 to 1. That's inside the Bet365 enhanced market for $22. My model had extremely minimal deviations between Rahm and Scheffler up top. It did naturally give the American the perceived edge in tee to green production, but the most significant disparity came into play when adding in opportunities created plus make percentage of the putts. So Rahm graded as a top 25 producer in expected strokes in putting on a fast Bermuda surface. He got propelled up even further to 13th when adding in the projected opportunities created. Scheffler, on the other hand, experienced a 56th place grade with the flat stick. He could only climb to 40th because of the dead last rank that he had in make percentage from 5 to 15 feet. Like, obviously, we're splitting hairs, and that's kind of what we were just talking about a second ago, where I think all these guys near the top are either appropriately priced or kind of in the realm of where they should be. But this was the first contest in a really long time that my model did not believe Scottie Scheffler should have been the betting favorite. It thought Jon Rahm should have been the favorite here. As I said, we're splitting hairs, but I am going to go with Jon Rahm for $22 at that 9.5 to 1 mark.
All right. Look, I never have a problem going after the reigning Masters champion, who certainly is due for his next victory. I am going to, and you said, look, we've had a recent run of long shots. Brian Harman at the Open, Lee Hodges at the 3M, and last week, Lucas Glover in Greensboro. I do think it stops this week. I don't think we're going that far down the board for the main reason that we don't have that many choices. Last week, there were only 20 players who were shorter than 50 to 1. This week, depending on the book, there are at least 25, if not more. So there's just more guys packed into that top tier and mid tier this week. I'm going to start my card with, look, if you're looking for somebody who follows the formula of what Will Zalatoris did here in winning last year, it could be Colin Morikawa. Now, I like Morikawa as a ball striker. He has lost it. It's funny. He's lost strokes with his irons in 2 of his last 3 starts, but he's gained strokes with his irons in 16 of his last 18. So it's not like Morikawa's not hitting the ball well. I feel like, and I've said it a few times this week, but this is a great week to try to pick off somebody who hasn't quite peaked yet this year. I like the guys who haven't won, and that's going to be a prevailing theme throughout some of my picks. So Morikawa is a guy who's played well enough to win, hasn't done it. Zalatoris last year, world-class ball striker, had a little bit of a spike week with his putter. Actually, Morikawa, in finishing 5th place last year, putted a little bit better than Zalatoris. So I'll take Colin at 22 to 1 boosted odds at Bet365. 20% of the portfolio this week. Who's your second guy, Spence?
I'm going to go with Tom Kim, 50 to 1 for $4. Like, my card obviously has to get limited. And it's not even just for like the sake of the show. Like there's only so many names that I can pick once I start with a sub 10 to 1 option. It's going to be a two-man card for me in general this week. I do think we can look down this board when you're looking at 60 to 100 to 1 shots. Siwoo Kim, Justin Rose, Cameron Davis. I don't know if I necessarily believe Lucas Glover can go back to back, but those would be the names that I would be considering as an additional add if I was going to add anybody else to the card. But I really like Tom Kim for a couple reasons. He has that high-end tee to green acumen. He ranked as one of only 4 players in this field to grade inside the top 10 for both weighted proximity and total driving. The other 3, Rahm, Scheffler, Cameron Young. I think Cameron Young's a surprising name to keep an eye on this week also, just because people aren't going to want to go down that road at the price that he's at. But my guess is that Kim would have been closer to 35 to 1 had he not withdrawn before the Wyndham Championship started last week because of the ankle injury that he suffered at the Open Championship. I will let the overreaction give us a total that I believe is worth grabbing here at 50 to 1. And then, as I said, just cut my outright card down to this 2-name sort of an output that I'm going to do, where I'm grabbing 2 players in my model that were top 5 in expected tee to green performers specifically for TPC Southwind.
If Kim cashes that outright ticket for you this week, do me a favor. You've got to buy him something, because I don't know if you saw at the Wyndham Championship last week, he wasn't playing. He had withdrawn due to the injury. He came on CBS on Saturday, and it was just a white background in his house, his apartment, his town, wherever he lives. And there was a little lamp sitting in the corner. That was it. That's all he had. I feel like if Tom wins this week, if you got a ticket on him, let's send him some like nice housewarming gifts to, just help him out a little bit.
He seems like a nice kid. I'll definitely hook him up.
Okay, sounds good. All right, my second play this week. Look, there's specific places where you want to play Sam Burns. I think this is one of them. He lost here in a playoff 2 years ago, and obviously with Bermuda greens, that fits his profile. I feel like he's the kind of guy that he's a momentum player. When he's playing well, starts to go up that roller coaster. When he's not playing well, kind of goes back down that cycle. But with a 14th place finish at the Wyndham last week, I feel like he's starting to climb back up. Started the week at 40 to 1. Hope he got in there. Now he's 30 to 1. So obviously a lot of people jumping on that one. He is getting shorter, but I'm going to throw 20% of that portfolio on him as well. And quite honestly, I kind of like Burns a little bit better than Morikawa. I usually give you a winner with short odds. I give you an outright player with longer odds. I kind of like Burns at those longer odds more than I like Morikawa, but I've got them on the card this week. Let's talk a little bit about this golf course. First tee that way, 10th tee that way. The range is over here, practice facility there, 7,243 yards. I walked it off and counted them earlier. So yeah, they got it right. Don't worry. It's par 70. Don't, as I mentioned off the top, don't get this one confused if you're doing research with the FedEx St. Jude Classic or the FedEx St. Jude Invitational, which, believe it or not, are different tournaments than the FedEx St. Jude Championship, which, oh, by the way, if you look before last year, you'll see Tony Finau was a winner. Patrick Reed won twice. Dustin Johnson back in the day. That was the Northern Trust. It's turned into this one. So you've really got to dig and just find what players have done at TPC Southwind, not necessarily this tournament or a tournament with the FedEx St. Jude name attached to it, because everything has changed. So let's get to the player market bets at Bet365. We're going to buy one. We're going to sell one. Spencer, usually you just buy 2, but we're not letting you do that this time.
Yeah, I didn't have much of a lean for this particular market in general. It's no surprise, Jason, I'm not playing by the rules later on in the show. So I decided I can't have a double whammy here where I just cheat twice and go a different route. But I'm going to say Hideki Matsuyama, 28th or better, minus 120, 650 of the budget. It goes back to a lot of these points that I keep making about this being a ball striking course that enhances the better players and reduces some of the flat stick returns that we're going to get. We see that in my model with Hideki grading 7th in this field for projected tee to green at TPC Southwind. The putter's obviously going to have some massive concerns, and we can talk about that another time, Jason, but it's worth noting that he jumps to 21st with that portion of his game when adding in the overabundance of opportunities that my data believes that he will create compared to the field. These no-cut tournaments add a different dynamic to these markets since everyone gets 4 rounds of golf. I think that's the one key that I want to keep stressing over and over again. Essentially, it changes the complexion in various areas. How that works is going to be different in every single market. However, to that point, I will say I do believe safety works well in a non-moving market. Something here to where we can just get a flat number of 28th or better. We know exactly what he needs to shoot. He's 16th in my model when trying to find a floor output total. I think Hideki is safe here, and I think safety works well for this particular market.
I like that. That makes a whole lot of sense, Spencer. I'm paying attention to you, but you see me looking around. I'm trying to pick off a player or two here and there. They're all over the place. I mean, it's very impressive. It's nearly 5 o'clock here Central Time in Memphis, and yet there's still a handful of players on the range right there. There are players congregating over here in the practice facility putting. There's still a bunch of guys playing on the golf course, just playing a little practice round. So I think these guys aren't taking it seriously. These guys are taking it very seriously for the first playoff event. They are all still grinding away, and it's actually gotten pretty nice out here. It was very humid, a little rainy earlier in the day, but the weather is good. I've heard softer conditions this week. The rough has grown up, a lot of rain in the area recently, so the rough is a little thicker than it usually is, but the fairways and greens are a little bit softer, should be good scoring conditions. I do want to hit the top of the board a little bit, and so I want an investment on a guy that I really like over the next 3 weeks. I don't mind a play. If you can find the market for FedEx Cup champion, Patrick Cantlay, again, another guy who hasn't really peaked yet this year, but Patrick Cantlay, I believe, is around 15-1, 16-1 to win the FedEx Cup. I'm taking him in his player market bet, player finishing position bet at Bet365. 16th or better this week. I think it's a really nice number. I get it. The form hasn't been terrific. Course history here, I think it was 57th last year. Wasn't anything too special, but I think that's going to sway people in the other direction. I like him. I really like him in DFS this week, where I think that people will, because of the pricing, there's still 4 guaranteed rounds. You can go with some stars this week and then go with some lower price guys, knowing that you're going to get 72 holes from them no matter what. I think that the guys just below the big 3 are going to get overlooked a little bit. Patrick Cantlay is a great example of that, and I think he's got good value in a few different platforms. I'll take 16th or better at 15% of the portfolio this week.
I like that Patrick Cantlay play a lot. I think he's in play for any market that you really want to talk about. I think the DFS answer is intriguing because he's going to go a little under the radar. I considered him as an outright bet. Obviously, I ended up going to Jon Rahm, but I think upside with him is a very interesting play here, and something to land inside the top 16 is certainly interesting.
Yeah, it's always tough. We're looking for somebody to sell. Usually, or at least sometimes, you just refuse to do it and won't sell anybody. But you are selling someone this week. Who are you selling?
I mean, Jordan Spieth is nowhere around you, right?
I saw him earlier. Yeah, I don't see Jordan now. I think you're safe.
All right, so I'm going to say
Jordan right here. You want to fade Cooch?
Well, with Kuchar being that close, we'll go with Jordan Spieth here.
Okay.
Jordan Spieth, 25th or worse at -120 for 650 of the budget. This price did move on me overnight from 22nd or worse to 25th or worse. Obviously, I'm not going to use the number on Monday since that doesn't do anybody any good to hear a stale number here. But I pretty much had 4 golfers that graded above anyone else and how overpriced they were in various markets compared to where my model believed they should have been located. Not Matt Kuchar there, so that's going to be safe to give these names, but Sahith Theegala, Jordan Spieth, Harris English, which is a surprising one because I know people really like Harris English at this course, Taylor Moore. Bet365 didn't have the over-under markets for 3 of those 4, so Spieth became the natural target because of his boom or bust nature over the past few months. It's not going to be all bad for Spieth when looking into my math, since he does project well in his ability to create opportunities and score. But for me, this comes down to the volatility that's pronounced inside of my model because of his erratic nature of his game. My model had him slip from 22nd to 42nd in recalculated tee to green for TPC Southwind. And then really the biggest problem came down to the critical par 4 locations. He moved outside of the top 50 there at those 12 critical holes that I think you're going to have to score at. And that's kind of the one thing in my model to where obviously you only have 2 par 5s. That's going to shrink all the scoring ranges a little bit more condensed in my model there. Par 4 scoring saw a really big boost. So I have some concerns with Spieth's erratic nature at those setups this week.
Yeah, I think that makes some sense. And you're right. I'm looking around because I'm not going to fade anybody who's within earshot. So I think he's all right. He was here before. All right. I don't see Jason Day anywhere. So
you might not want to say this in front of me, Jason.
Yeah, I just don't tell him, but he was here. Right? He's around here. I know he's here. Anyway, Jason Day, 24th or worse. I feel the same way. You talked about Jordan Spieth's boom or bust nature. Jason Day, very, very similar. Look, we saw him win, obviously, the AT&T Byron Nelson. Since then, granted, a runner-up finish at the Open Championship in his last start, but he's also finished outside the top 24 in 4 of his last 5 starts. So it's a small play. It's only 5%. It's not like I'm fading that, but to finish in the bottom 2/3 of the field. I don't think that's asking too much. And, he's a guy that maybe I'll hop back on next week in Chicago. All right, we're going to get to our props and matchups. And again, you said you didn't play by the rules this week, Spencer. I knew you wouldn't. And so you, instead of playing a prop, decided to just play two matchups and not listen to us whatsoever.
I do want to give an answer for this one because I do try to play by the rules somewhat. I think specifically for this week, I'm really big, as you know, Jason, in this top 40 market. And when you only have a 70-man field with a no-cut contest, a lot of that gets condensed down to where I didn't find as much value on the board. Like, you're going to have to shoot this up into the top 10 or the top 20. That's just more exposure than I want to take on for this. And matchups are always my bread and butter. So yeah, I'm going to play two matchups here. I think you're going to talk about one, and I didn't include it on this card because I didn't want to do the same play twice. And you probably have the better end of this fade here, but I am trying to take on Jordan Spieth in various ways. I'm going to go with Tony Finau plus 105 over Spieth for $27. My model has always noticed that a no-cut event enhances some of the upside intangibles that we need for a matchup. It works similarly to trying to find fade-worthy options above anything else. That's what I'm always going to do when I talk about matchups. But we don't have a cut this week. And without having a cut, I've always found better success fading those names when taking the high-end talents that can get hot for a round or two. Finau fit that mold perfectly inside of my model. I think he makes for an intriguing first-round leader bet because of that reason. But it all comes down to the putter for him since he joined Scheffler and Rahm as one of only 3 names to grade top 5 for weighted tee to green and recalculated scoring. As I said, the floor is a little lower than I would have targeted if this had been a tournament with a cut. But I would be pretty surprised if Finau didn't generate a day or two of really high-end returns here. And it just goes back to I'm trying to find ways to take on Spieth. You're going to talk about probably the better way to do it later on in this show. But I think anything that's not Fitzpatrick probably versus him, any other matchup that you can find in the space is in play for me.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I will talk about Finau as we get on to later in the show where yes, I'm doing exactly what you said, which is that single round investment, looking for a low number, at least on Thursday. So, use your imagination there. I do like to play by the rules. I do like to when our producers say, hey, pick a prop. I'm like, okay, I can do that for you guys since that's what you'd like me to do. And so I'm going with the guy that, quite honestly, if I had 3 outrights this week, and I will probably have a little bit of them outright, besides Morikawa and Burns, the third guy would have been Tommy Fleetwood. And I still think the number's a little too short in the outright marketplace without the win equity. I get it. It's never won yet on U.S. soil. Maybe that just means it's coming, and maybe we should be playing him more because he hasn't won yet, because this is a law of averages, even though there is no such thing as a law of averages. In any case, Tommy's going to win at some point. I'm going to take him for a top 10 here, which I think is very, very conservative. I think it could be a top 5. Like I said, could be a win this week, but top 10 plus 250, $20. He's been on fire lately, playing some of the best golf of his career, quite honestly. The ball striking's been terrific. I think this could be a very dangerous spot for Tommy Fleetwood this week.
Yeah, I always like Fleetwood, and I specifically like Fleetwood in these top 10 sort of ranges with it, just because you talked about it. He has not gotten a win yet. I've chased that win for a long time with him, and sometimes you just start throwing darts on the board and hoping that it's the week. Like, there's other ways that we can always attack these players, whether it's to fade them or to back them in markets. And that's kind of why I went with two matchups here. And I'll move us forward into this next play here. So, if you're going to give two matchups, they better be two that you like. So I took Lucas Glover minus 110 over Lee Hodges for $30. I like where the books are with their thought process by pairing these two against each other. We get our last 2 winners on tour. They've each landed top 13 at this course last year. It's a fun pairing for informed golfers that have demonstrated recent upside. I think it makes for a fun matchup here, but I do have some massive concerns about how Hodges graded for this course. My sheet saw him fall to the bottom 5 of expected tee to green producers and weighted scorers. I don't know if he can find enough scorable opportunities that are going to allow for that room for error of what he has there. Maybe he stays safe off the tee because he does grade well in that sector. I do know markets like him, and there are bettors out there that are respecting Hodges this week, but a 7-spot decrease in expected proximity did move him to 63rd overall out of 70 players. If the answer that I keep giving of looking for quality ball strikers comes into play, you're not going to find many that are better than Lucas Glover. Obviously, the putter is streaky, but I think Glover is playing some of the best golf he has in, 10 to 15 years at this point, and I'm going to keep riding the trend with him.
So pulling the curtain back a little bit, I had some travel issues getting here. I was flying yesterday evening, Monday evening, and from Orlando, had a massive delay getting to Atlanta for my connecting flight, then missed the connecting flight, stayed over there, got to Memphis. In any case, I'm not complaining. A lot of people got much worse journeys than I did. But long story short, I finally got on site. I walked onto property. I got here, and the first player I saw, it was Lucas Glover, who, of course, won the Wyndham the other day. Got to shake his hand, say congratulations, and really one of the great guys on the PGA Tour. So I like the fact you're picking Glover this week. I do think he's stepping on the gas pedal a little bit. We're playing with that proverbial free roll right now, getting back into the playoffs. I'm going to go with the matchup of another guy I spoke with earlier today. Tyrrell Hatton was going out to the first tee to play 9 holes with Aaron Rice. So he's in detox a little bit, coming off 2 weeks off. He is as funny as they come. I asked him the maddest he's ever been on the golf course, because I said, Billy, you tend to get a little emotional out there. I don't know if anyone's noticed. He said, yeah, I guess someone mentioned something once, and he's great. He said, look, I don't know. They all sort of run together at some point, but mentioned specifically the time when he implored his caddy to tell him that was the worst shot I've ever seen. Tell me that was the worst shot you've ever seen. And he made his caddy actually say it out loud. And Aaron Rye, who was sitting next to him, said, I've actually watched that one on YouTube. I actually tend to enjoy that one. So the two of them had a great time on our show on Sirius XM today. So it's great speaking with him. In any case, that doesn't mean he's going to play that well, but I'm taking the same player that you are fading in Jordan Spieth, and I'm taking Tyrrell Hatton at minus 120 over him. Look, it's been a fantastic season for Hatton. 8 of his last 9 starts inside the top 20. Spieth, like you said, a little bit of the unknown, a little bit of a roller coaster. Hatton's just been dead on all year. And again, I keep targeting the guys who have played really well and haven't quite gotten that performance. We're looking for, what they call that, what is it, that positive regression, which is this oxymoronic phrase that people in our industry use that makes sense. I mean, I get it. I make fun of it a little bit, but it makes complete sense. And we all know what it is. I liken it to a pitcher who's 7-12 with a 2.83 ERA. He's like, well, they keep pitching the way they're going to pitch. They're not going to wind up 7-12. They're going to have a better win-loss record based on the fact that those spoils, those just desserts come to them. So it can happen for Hatton this week just as well. I will take him in a matchup over Spieth. But if you'd like to go a little bit deeper and make more of an investment on Hatton, I have no problem on that. So let's get to the gimme prop this week. And we racked our brains to find a good one this week, and I like this. With only 70 players in the field, we've got the top 3 on the board, I believe, all playing together this week. Scottie Scheffler, Jon Rahm, Rory McIlroy. It was plus 620 at Bet365. It's been boosted to plus 708. That's a random number, but I kind of like that. With only 70 players in the field, Spence, what do you think? You taking those guys as a top 10 parlay?
I mean, as I said, Jason, I'm not a big top 10 person there. Does that bet pay if hypothetically they all come tied for 9th place?
Yeah, I'll pay you.
Well, I just asked that because I think once you get down to these lower or these upper tiered markets where you're talking about top 5s and top 10s, you obviously need to reduce some of like the dead heat rules that come into play with it. Sure. So I think that would make a difference based off of that bet. They're number 1, 2, and 3 in my model. It's hard to find much to dislike about any of them. Like if you made me guess, one of them probably does not do it. But as I said, they're 1, 2, 3 in my model. I mean, they're the 3 best players here.
I know a guy at Bet365. I'll give a call and ask over there. We'll figure that out. All right. Let's get to our favorite first round leader play. You're going with a big name here, aren't you?
I'm going to go back to Jon Rahm one more time on this show. 20-1 for $4. I just think there's nobody in the field that can score as well as he does if he puts the pieces together for the day. That's including the putter into the mix here. He's one of 2 players. The other would be Patrick Cantlay, who carried projections in the top 10 for scoring and top 20 for putting. I'm going to have a smaller wager myself on Tony Finau. You alluded to that you're going to back him, so I'll let you talk about him a little bit more here in a second. But I think this is a really good spot for Rahm to start the FedEx Cup playoffs in a strong way this week.
Yeah, it makes sense. Look, you're going to have to go low. Last year on maybe a little bit firmer golf course, 62 was the first round lead. I believe JJ Spawn and Siwoo Kim held that position there. I'm going to go with Tony Finau. He mentioned shot 64 in the opening round last year. Look, I'm just going for some explosion. I'm going for some fireworks. I'm going for some massive upside. We all know that Tony Finau can go low in a hurry. I will, at this point, say as well, I'll spend field. I don't like some of the numbers. Remember, last year, Will Zalatoris opened with a 71. He was 9 shots back. That was a really good number if you jumped on it going into the second round. He went 63, 65, 66 over the final 3 days, beat Sepp Straka in a playoff. So if you're looking for something like that, you might want to jump in live more so than pre-tournament bets. All right, we're almost done here, but we got to make our one and done plays. Where are you going with yours? With, remember, only 3 events left in the entire schedule, so don't leave anybody out there on the table.
I said I wasn't going to mention this player again, and apparently I don't even play by my own rules here because I'm going to bring him up one more time. But I'm going to go with Jon Rahm. Now, I don't know if you have Jon Rahm available. I have had people asking me questions this week about it, and Jon Rahm is one of the players that they do have. And I know a lot of people want to save him to next week, which makes a lot of sense. But depending on where you are in a contest, if you're trying to make up ground, I do think this is a contrarian spot to use him because anybody who has him is going to save him till next week. And most people have already used him. So I do think this is a nice spot for Rahm if you do still have him on tap.
Yeah, I like that. So I'm going to go with Sam Burns, go back to the well here again. He's a guy that has a skill set that fits this golf course. He's played well on this golf course. Bermuda greens, we all know Bermuda Burns loves putting on Bermuda greens. Played well last week. There's a lot of reasons to like him. A little motivation. He's number 13 on the Ryder Cup points list. Everyone's talking about Justin Thomas. Will he or won't he be named to the team? Some other guys can help themselves a lot over the next few weeks. And Sam Burns is certainly on that short list. So he's a guy that has a lot of reasons to like him this week. And he's a guy that, in theory, some people could still have left out there if you didn't use him at any of the other big events this year. And, you saw him that you want to save him. So certainly Burns is a decent option this week. All right, let's recap those portfolios. Spencer's got outrights on Rahm and Tom Kim, buying Hideki, selling Spieth, matchups on Finau and Glover, first round leader play on Jon Rahm. I've got outrights on Morikawa and Burns, buying Cantlay, selling Day, a prop on Tommy Fleetwood, matchup on Tyrrell Hatton, and a first round leader play on Tony Finau. Thanks, guys, for sticking with us through the technical difficulties, and thanks, as always, for watching the Gimme, presented by Bet365. For more content, check out all of our coverage at the Action Network app, not only this week, but every single week during the PGA Tour season. For Spencer Aguiar, I'm Jason Sobel. Good luck with all your bets from this FedEx St. Jude Championship here at TPC Southwind. Here's hoping you guys